I think we're live. I believe we're live. Hey, Woody. I have already updated the firmware. After I found out about it last night, I'm assuming you can hear me okay. Can you? Make sure my volume's good. Can you hear me okay, Woody? Okay. Anyways, I found out about the firmware update after I went to bed last night, or as I was going to bed. And I woke up about, I'm ashamed to tell you this. I woke up about 2:30 this morning. I got to get up at 4 o'clock anyways, but I woke up at 2:30 this morning, couldn't sleep. So that's exactly what I did. I downloaded the firmware and put it right on the camera immediately. So yes, one thing that I've learned about Nikon is when they release firmware. Hey, David, thanks for joining me tonight. Welcome. One thing I've learned about Nikon and firmware updates, they don't release anything unless they are for sure it's working, okay? I've never had a trouble myself with Nikon firmware updates, never have, okay? Anyways, we'll wait for a few more to get in here. Hey, Tim. Yeah, hey, Woody, do you know David? Are you on his channel? He's down in Chattanooga, down there with Tim and Phil and a few others down there. They live about 100 miles south of me. But while we're waiting for a few more to show up, okay, I wanted to read you something. And I don't know if anybody's ever read the instruction book for a new lens that they got, but I found something really funny in here. What Nikon writes on theirs. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, so Nikon, yeah, I think I was like his 4th subscriber, Woody. Anyways, Nikon used to ship their lenses in fairly decent cases. I mean, we're talking about hard-sided cases and well protected. And nowadays, they just send it in a polyester bag. It's just cheap. You know, might as well just throw it away. I got several of them up on the shelf. My lenses get more protection in my backpack than they do from that. But anyways, one of the things they say right here about polyester lens cases is they said the case is intended to protect the lens from scratches, but not from falls or other physical shocks. Duh. And the material used in this case may fade, bleed, stretch, shrink, or change color when rubbed or wet. Be careful that the lens does not fall from the case during transport. Yeah, thank you, Nikon. But you know, what's amazing is some of these lenses are really expensive. Like their 70 to 200 Z lens is $2,600, and only the higher up lenses get a decent case. Like the 500 phase Fresnel gets a really nice zippered up case. David's got one of them. I'm sure he's got a 500 phase Fresnel. So sometimes you have to buy aftermarket cases, and then, you know, but anyways, I was reading this and it goes on to talk about how to clean it if it has a fluorine coated element on the front. So anyways, I was just reading that. It's kind of why I was waiting for the stream to start. But anyways, I wanted to show you something. And David, I am so glad that you are here tonight because you are going to be proud of me. In David's live stream last Saturday, he was talking about lenses, and we had a moment. David and I had a moment, okay, a hell yeah moment. And I have been looking for 2 lenses. Yeah, me too, Woody. Mine stays coupled to the D500. Anyways, I had been looking for 2 lenses locally on Facebook Marketplace. Well, I found 2. I wanted to buy them from an individual locally so I could inspect them, okay? Because sometimes these lenses have been abused because most of them come on a kit camera like a D3300 or a D5000 or something like that. So a lot of these consumers, they don't take real good care of their camera gear. And I wanted to look at them. Well, I made arrangements to meet this guy in Knoxville. Now I work in Oak Ridge, so that's about 25, 30-mile drive. And I made arrangements to meet him on a work day at my lunch break. I drove all the way over almost to the destination, the Shoney's at Lenore City, and he sends me a text message. I'm sorry, but I've been sick for the last couple of days and I can't meet you today. I thought it would be better. I said, wow, I'm almost to the Shoney's, man. I'm sorry about that. I said, yeah, me too. Okay, well, I hope you feel better. I said, by the way, if you still have them in a couple of days and you want to redo this, send me a text message. I didn't hear nothing. So I don't know if he wasn't interested in selling them, but he wanted to, he didn't want a whole lot of money for them. I could have got the two lenses for 105. Well, since he stood me up, I went a different route. And this box came today, okay? And I'm gonna open it up right here in front of you. Now I bought another lens from KEH, and they're pretty good, okay? They seem to be accurate, but it's packed really well. There's a receipt in there somewhere. I had to pay a little bit more money for them, but what I ended up getting, David, was the 18 to 55 VR and the 55 to 200 VR for my junky D200 camera. Somebody called it junky last week. So I'm going to look at the 18 to 55 here, and it looks pretty clean. Let me check this out. That's just a little dust specked. The filter threads look good. The lens looks what they said. It's almost mint condition. It looks like brand new. I don't see anything wrong with it. Now, you know, I'll have to mount that to the camera and try it. Yes, David, I've been looking for these lenses, and exactly the same reason you talked about in your stream on Saturday. And then this one here is the 55 to 200 VR. You have to be careful because there's more than one flavor of these lenses, okay? There's a non-VR, which won't have this red stamp right here. See that red stamp? And the 18 to 55 got a gold VR. And they have two switches on them. They have the A and the M for focusing, okay? And then they have the VR switch. Now, I had these lenses at one time because I owned a D3200, I think it was, and they came as a kit from Sam's for about $500 for these two lenses. But I let the lenses go. And after I acquired the D200, I was looking for lenses like this to go with that crop sensor body. So this was $140 for two lenses. So I paid $40 more than I would have paid from the guy that stood me up. Yeah, so you let your grandson use the camera? I don't have any grandchildren near me to let. I would let my wife use it if she wanted to use it, you know. But if she had any clue about what I have invested in camera gear, she would be yelling about it for sure. Yeah, and I really like this. Yeah, David, they will. I really like the sensor on that D200. But anyways, we're not here to talk about that. What I do want to do is I want to talk to you about the Z8. Okay, I just wanted to do that unboxing in front of y'all. I want to talk to you about the Z8, specifically with the 180 to 600 lens on it and the new firmware update that come out last night. Now, I bought the Z8 under the assumption that I heard rumors that they were going to update the firmware on the Z8 and give you bird eye detect focus. Well, they did. And I tried it out today and it works, okay? I haven't had a chance to look at the images, but I know the focus point landed on that bird's eye and stayed right with it. It was a little white-throated sparrow, and he was on a weed that you kind of moving in the wind a little bit, and that green box just stayed right with him. Anyways, so they gave us bird subject detection, and that was the biggie for this firmware update that everybody was waiting for. The Z9 already had it on their firmware version 4 about 2 months ago or a month ago, Yeah. Don't talk about the cost of gear. They had a couple months ago did their firmware update, and they got the bird eye detect, and I've been hearing great things about it. But anyhow, one thing I want to mention is something about Nikon, something I've noticed about Nikon. But Nikon has been like the only brand basically that has been consistently updating and significantly improving their cameras through firmware updates. Many of the other brands only do minor tweaks, where Nikon has been adding a lot of new features and also consistently improving the performance of their cameras. And I think that was a direct quote, by the way. I didn't come up with that myself. I thought that nailed it right on the head. Okay, so one of the YouTubers I listened to, and this was in his video, and I thought it really nailed it on the head, because I have had other cameras before, and I think a lot of times manufacturers, instead of spending a lot of time on their firmware updates, they just go make new models, okay, and get more money out of you. One thing I wish Nikon would do, and if they're listening, hey Nikon, update the focus in the Z6ii and make everybody that owns one happy. That's all we're wanting. We just want the focus updated, okay, so we have a better bird detect and wildlife detect than what it has. It's a capable camera, but it's just cumbersome to use. Anyways, so we have bird detect. I did try it out today, and one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to hook it up, and then I'm going to test it test it against the 500 PF on the Z8 with the FTZ adapter, and see how all that works together. And I have a way. I did have a recording device. I sent it back. I wasn't happy with it. I bought a Axon Seymour, and I wasn't happy with what it was doing. And it was kind of cumbersome for me to use on top of the camera, and had two cables off of it. It's just, I sent it back. But I just found out something. I can record directly to my MacBook, okay, using a media capture device, which I have for OBS. I can capture directly to my MacBook on OBS. On the Z6ii, when you capture, when you're doing photographs, you see everything. You see the focus point, you see the settings of the camera, you see everything in the frame when you're doing that. In a lot of YouTube videos, you'll notice that when they're doing captures on the Z cameras. But on the Z6ii, when you switch to video mode, it does not show you anything but the picture. It does not show you your settings. It does not show you anything else. But I just found out by testing the Z8, the Z8 does show you your settings in video mode. So that's pretty cool. Why you would want to do that? Because you can record a video, you know, and see it, you know, but I don't know. But I'm going to try and do a comparison on the focusing system between the 180s to 600. I'm going to do a video on it. And I had a few, Rodney wanted to know how fast it was. And I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Fuji is aggressive. I don't know. You know, I've had thoughts about Fuji, but, you know, I've also had, I've sat and watched a few people have a Fuji and get rid of a Fuji. So, you know, I'm actually looking for some kind of little knockaround camera that's decent. And I actually looked at the Nikon Z50, but you know, I'm kind of waiting to see what they're going to come out with after the Z6ii rumors are going around. Yes, Woody, I'm closing in on 1,000 subscribers fast, and I'm actually toying it. Do I want to monetize or do I not want to monetize? You know, I'm really not. The money part doesn't really matter to me, but it'd just be nice to have the 1,000 subscribers. Anyways, on with the firmware update. A couple other things that are major things that they gave you. They gave you a feature called auto capture. Now, I've watched videos on this. This is pretty cool. You can set your, I don't know how it works. You can set your camera up, program it to auto capture something. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're at a race and you're on the curve of the racetrack and the cars are coming by you, okay, or the motorcycles. You got your camera set on a tripod and you only want to get pictures of the cars as they come around. So supposedly you can set this up to trigger, and when a car comes by you, it'll take pictures. Okay, pretty cool. Or if you wanted to, you could set it near a bird feeder, do the same thing, or put a perch on the back porch somewhere with some peanut butter on it, put the camera on it, and just sit there and wait for it to take pictures. Heck, pretty soon we won't even need to use our fingers. We just have to think about a picture and it'll take it by itself. Anyways, I didn't get into that, but it sounded like a pretty cool picture. Oh yeah, by the way, if you haven't done so already, hit the like button, please. Thank you. Another thing they got is pixel shift shooting. Now, I think I've heard about this in some other camera models, but now Nikon has offered it. And it's if you could take up to 32 raw images and now this is a 45 megapixel camera. You do the math here. You can take 32 raw images and stack those in the computer to get you a whopping 180 megapixel file. Now, that's a big file. I did see a now you don't want to use this for moving subjects. What you want to use this for is like landscapes, seascapes, stuff like that. I've seen some photographs that a guy did using this feature, and they looked really nice. The noise was greatly reduced in the image. Okay, he actually had a scene. It was a mountain scene. He was way back, miles back, way back. And he used the widest angle of this lens and did this. And when he zoomed into those mountain peaks, you could actually see the trees and the detail. It was pretty cool. So anyways, that was a pretty cool new thing. Another thing they added was picture controls. So for those who are Nikon users, you're familiar with picture controls. That's your standard, neutral, monochrome, vivid, portrait, all those in there. But they're only valid for JPEG files. They have nothing to do with RAW files. Well, what they did is they added a few more for the JPEG files. Now, I can see an advantage to this. Let's say you're a wedding shooter and you're shooting and you're wanting to show also. So you're shooting RAW plus JPEG. So your JPEGs are going to get baked in whatever setting you set in the picture control. Not for RAW files. It has nothing to do with RAW files. So if you're a RAW file shooter, this does not affect you, except for one thing. It does affect videos. If you're shooting videos with your camera and you set your picture control to something like vivid or monochrome, it will bake it into the video. This is a fact. Okay, you don't have to go check this. So you want to be aware of that. And all the previous Z models had this same feature. So this is nothing new. All they've done is they've added a few more new picture controls. And you can, if you get a Z8, and update the firmware, you can see what they are. There was another deep monochrome, and there was another something about portrait. There's like about 3 or 4 new picture controls. I kind of play around with them when I'm doing video because I don't do any post, what do you call it? Not post-processing, color grading. I don't do any color grading to my videos. I use a product called Adobe Premiere Elements. It's like Photoshop Elements. It's very minimal, but it's mine and I own it. Paid $79 for it, and it works. It works for my videos. So anyways, another thing they come up with is the high-res zoom in video mode. Now, I've seen this in action too. This is pretty awesome. You can zoom in to your subject high resolution, and it's big. Okay, I mean, it's almost like having a super zoom lens. So I did watch a video on that today. I thought that was pretty cool. And this is a good one here. This next one, the autofocus box, the border. Now, I don't know about you all. I wear glasses. See this? Okay, but I don't wear my glasses when I shoot. I take them off. I'm just that kind of person. So what happens is sometimes that little focus box, especially if you're using single point, you can't hardly see it. Let me give away something. Wait a minute. I'm getting distracted by the comments. I'll get to those comments in a minute. Anyways, the autofocus box, you can change it now and thicken the line so you can see it better. Okay, it's 1 through 5, I think. I'm on number 2. Worked pretty good. And now I can see the box a lot easier, especially when you're doing a single point autofocus. So I thought that was pretty cool. And one more thing they did was cycle through AF modes. So what you can do is you can set up a button on your camera, and every time you push it, it cycles to the next AF mode in your camera. Now, there's a place in the menu where you can change the settings for this and uncheck the autofocus modes that you don't ever use. Okay, I got about 4 of them unchecked that I don't use. So if you program this button, instead of fiddling around with dials and menus, you just hit this button with your finger, and it'll flip through these different AF modes until you come to the one you want. So if you've only got like 2 or 3 selected, it's a lot quicker than taking the camera away from your eye and chimping and trying to turn the dials. You might miss the shot. I think that there should be probably a great time-saving feature if you're a bird shooter or any kind of wildlife shooter. They added, y'all heard of my last, hey Rodney, y'all heard of my last stream, the shutter sounds on the camera? Okay, how quiet it was. Hey, David didn't hear it. Let me go grab the camera real quick. I'll be right back, okay? I was actually out in the woods tonight sitting in my blind, but let me see. I think it'll just, yeah. Okay, I'm going to have to hold this right up to my microphone. It's under my shirt for you to hear it, so listen carefully. I'm going to fire off about 5 shots. You hear that? That's with the new shutter sounds, okay? It was quieter without the shutter sounds. So now when you're holding it up to your eye, the blackout lag is so fast you don't even notice it anymore. David's got a Z6, so he knows what I'm talking about. When you would shoot with that Z6, you'd have this lag, and until you got used to using a mirrorless, it kind of drove you crazy, and because of the EVF would black out for a second. The Z8 doesn't have that. You can set the amount of blackout you want, and it goes in 1/60th of a second, 1/30th of a second. I got mine set for 1/60th. Okay, so when I push the button, you hardly even notice any blackout at all. And the problem with that is the shutter is so quiet because they don't have a mechanical shutter. It's electronic shutter now only. And so it's so quiet, you got to have something that makes some noise so you know it went off, because you don't see the lag either. So let me show you something here, David. And I didn't show the rest of you this. Here's the inside of the camera. You notice that the sensor is protected by a shutter door. I'm going to turn the camera on, and now it's not protected. And now it's protected. That is a menu option. You set that in the menu. You can turn that off and on if you wish. And I guess the idea is for shooters who take their lenses off when they put their camera in the backpack, that would make sense. Myself, I don't take my lens off and put it in the backpack. I leave the lens on there. So they have this new curtain that you can set up. When you turn the camera on, it goes up and protects it. Otherwise, it does not have a mechanical shutter in it. Okay, so the Z7, the X-Speed 7 processor is so fast now that they don't need it. I guess it's about as close as you'll get to global shutter. That seems to be the term to be used nowadays. Anyways, these firmware updates pretty much gives the Z8 the same capabilities as the Z9 in terms of autofocus. Like I said, I've got to do some more testing on that, and I promised Rodney I would. I'm going to this weekend. I did shoot some today with it, with the new firmware. And before you came, Rodney, I was talking about a bird I captured today. It was a yellow-throated sparrow, and it was on a piece of weed, you know, kind of moving in the wind a little bit. And the little green box stayed right on his eye. I haven't looked at the picture yet to see how sharp it is. Yes, Woody. Yeah, I love that shutter cover too. Plus, when you turn it off and on, you can hear that thing go up and down. You know you're turning it off and on. Um, there are some new features in the Z8 that are not in the Z9. Okay, which I thought was kind of unusual. Maybe the Z9 will be due for an update firmware too. I hope. I really hope. I wish these manufacturers, especially Nikon, because that's what I'm stuck with, um, would pay more attention to us people who have spent a lot of money for our gear and keep the firmware updates there for us. Okay, because I think if you make them happy, they're going to buy more stuff eventually. Okay, I, you know, that's just my philosophy. Like I said, back to the Z6ii, it's a great body. It's a perfect landscape body. It's a nice street photography body, but it's not very good in the wildlife department. It's good for static birds, big animals, bears and deer and things like that aren't jumping around and moving so much. But you try to do birds in flight with it, it's a crazy thing. I watched Phil's video today of doing some birds in flight with his Z50 and the 180 to 600, or Z50? Yeah, Z50 down at Hiawassee. And he did a wonderful job with that focus in that Z50, and it's really worse than the Z6 II. Anyways, hey, one of the things I want you guys to look at, when you look at my YouTube channel, if you'll scroll down, there's sections at the bottom. One of them is called featured channels, okay? If you'll look in there, I've got about 8 or 9 featured channels, but 2 of them that I trust to talk about Nikon stuff is Ricky Talks. That's RICCI Talks. I trust him. And I've recently, of course, Hudson Henry and Steve Perry, but recently I've been watching this other guy named Jan Wegener. It's Wegener. He's a foreigner. Okay, I'm not too sure what foreigner he's from, Denmark or somewhere, but he seems to have a pretty good grip on things from what I've seen so far. So those are 2 people. If you go down in the featured list on my channel, you'll see that. And also too, if you look on the channels now, and David, you might be interested in this, there's a community section, and we can type in notes and talk about things. It's almost like a bulletin board for our channel. So if you ever want to find out some more things about people, ones that are actually contributing to their community section of their channel, go check it out. I've got several in there, and there's some links in there I put in there for y'all to go and click on. This Jan Wegener, or whatever his name is, his link is in there to his video that I watched this morning. Okay, so I just wanted to get on here and do that. Just tell you about the firmware update, and I tell you what, tonight I came home. I came home tonight, and I don't know if I told you all this in the last stream or not, but I have a blind. There's 25 acres of woods behind my house. 3 years ago, I went back there. They logged it. Well, you know what happens when they log stuff like that down in Tennessee? It grows up in briars. Well, I went. It's not my 25 acres. It belongs to my neighbor. But I went and talked to him because he don't use it. And I asked him if I could go back there and cut some trails in. So I spent my Christmas vacation with a weed eater cutting trails in back there so I could get around the place. So there's a few people that, well, my dad used to hunt back there a little bit, him and his buddy, you know, my dad don't hunt so much back there anymore. Of course, I won't let him because that's where my friends are. I've got some deer back there. I've got a cellular game camera set up. So I see bobcat, turkey. There was a couple nice bucks a couple weeks ago come through there constantly. Well, he's got a ladder stand back there, and I don't trust them things. I won't get up in them, okay? I'm afraid I'm going to fall out of the darn thing. And I have a tendency to fall asleep when I'm in the woods. If you do that too, raise your hand so I can see you. Anyways, I bought a blind a couple years ago. I got 2 actually. One's a chair blind. It's just like a camping chair. It's the thing that pulls up over you. You guys probably seen them. But the other one I got is a bigger blind, and I got it on sale at Rural King for $35. Well, I never used the darn thing. It's in the basement. So last weekend I said, you know, I ought to get that thing out and set it up back there. So that's just what I did. I went and found me a good spot, and I'm right near the deer camera, so if I can see what's going on. And I put a chair in there, and I made some notes tonight. I need to take a milk crate. I need to take my binoculars with me. I got a JBL speaker or Bluetooth speaker that I can put out there and do bird calls with out there and where I can shoot the birds. And anyways, these deer have been coming in because they've been on my camera. So last week I had some bird seed that the birds would not eat. It had that millet and that crap in it. They just wouldn't eat it. So I started taking water pitchers full of that out there near the deer camera and just pouring it on the ground, which I did tonight. I'm making a video on this. Just poured it on the ground because the deer have been coming in after it. I was amazed. I had 4 deer on the camera the other morning at the same time. I run in, take my iPad in and run in and show my wife. I said, honey, look at this. Look at this. There's not 1, there's not 2, there's 4 of them out there. Look. I was so excited, but there was no bucks. But it doesn't matter. I like to take pictures of deer anyways. So Saturday was my first day in the blind, and the wind was blowing kind of the wrong way, I think. And I heard a deer off to my side in the woods, and it got spooked and ran. I don't know if it saw my rhino or what it did and left. But about 30 minutes later, another deer came back, and it was in the woods over there, and it was coming slow through the woods. I could see it. I was holding real still. I could see it through the blind, and it just stopped. And it stopped and looked real slow to the left and looked real slow to the right. And it probably took 3-4 minutes for it. And it just slowly turned around and went back the way it came. And there was a second deer back there with it. I seen it. They didn't run. They didn't get spooked, but they must have smelt me. And they didn't know for sure, and they just turned and left. Well, tonight I was sitting out there for about an hour and a half. And I don't know. I need to pull this up on the computer. But I believe in the time I was out there, I heard a bobcat. Okay. It had a sound that I'd never heard before. It was not a fox, it's just, and I said, that had to have been a bobcat. I know there's one back there. I've seen it several times on the camera. I don't know if it has a den, if it's got pups back there, what it's doing, So I would love to find the den. I'd love to find them youngsters, So that's kind of my hobby right now, is go sit in my blind. I took the Z8 and the 180-600 because Saturday I took the D500 and the 500. Too much lens, too much camera. Okay. So, and in fact, the 180 is too much. I may have to put the 24-120 that I got on the Z8 and shoot with that. So, anyways, let me catch up on these. Oh, yeah, it does. That's because I quoted him, Woody. I went back and listened to him twice. I thought it was pretty well worded. He's kind of right, about Nikon. Yeah, David, you had a Fuji, didn't you? So I think Phil had one for a little while. You got from one of his listeners, or maybe one of your listeners. Or it might have been from you. So your SL2 can do pixel shifting. Interesting. And Woody wants me to give something away. I read that once. Charging brick. So so Woody, you had a 1 in 3 chance of winning it that night. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, we get up past 1,000. I might do something like that. Okay, I can probably dig in my bag here and give away something cool. So you don't have the Z8 anymore, Woody? And Rodney, I'm gonna get you some videos so so you can see what it's doing. I'm gonna tell you something. Oh, you want it from David? All right. Did you have to pay for the shipping? If I know David, that was a no. Yeah. Hey, Rodney, I'm gonna get some videos done with the Z8 and the 500 PF and try to show you. This is just for you, friend. show you what it can do. I don't know what it can do yet. I haven't tried it. I mean, I even had a wicked thought this evening when I was out shooting with it. The wicked thought was maybe I just get rid of my D500 and just have the Z8. So yeah, somebody slapped me. Okay, I already did that once. I'm not going to do it again. Anyways, that's all I got. If you don't have any more questions, I just wanted to get on there and share these firmware updates with y'all and give you my impression. You had to send it back. My computer could not load. Oh, really? You know, something I had, speaking of computer and memory cards and cameras, I bought this camera. I bought the CF Express B card with this camera, but I also had an XQD card for the D500. This Z8 will use an XQD card, no problem. Okay, it's just not as fast, but it'll use it. The D500 will not use the CF Express B card. I already tried this. I have an XQD card reader. It will not read the B. I have to get a new reader. Okay, they're not cheap either. The cheapest one I can find is $55, and it ain't even guaranteed it'll work on my MacBook. But one thing that's needed that I cannot find that nobody makes is a reader that does all three: the CF Express B, the XQD, and a UHS 2. Because now I have to have two readers. I only found one XQD. I only found one CF Express B reader that did XQD, and it was made by Sony, and it was $100, and I wasn't paying $100. Okay, I did find another one, and I ordered it from B&H today. It'll be here Friday. So right now I can't read my CF Express B card. Hey, there was something, Woody. There was something in my community page. If you look in there, it came live at 7 o'clock. There's a list of everything in this firmware covered on the Z8, and there was some talk about software in there. And you might find something, Woody, in there. You know, of course, you already got rid of it, but there was something about the NX software in the Z8. I don't know what it was. I'm sure they probably fixed whatever it was, knowing Nikon. Yeah, Rodney, don't do it. Okay, slap me. You know, no, I'm not doing it. Okay, I'm exactly where I need to be, and I'm happy with that. I'm just kind of waiting to see if a Z6 III comes out and what it's going to be, and I may pick one up, but I may not. These will be the last camera purchases I make probably the rest of my life, because I'm going to be poor after next year. Anyways, any more questions? All right, friends. Thanks for coming by tonight. I'm going to sign off here, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up, and appreciate y'all, and we'll do this again sometime. Yeah. The firmware version 2 did some kind of update to the softwares, Woody. I don't know. I don't use those softwares, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But there's a whole paragraph at the very top. Go to the community site or go to the Nikon website and look it up, the firmware update. And there's a list of all the changes. I mean, it's extensive. It's like 2 pages long. Some of it's not applicable. I just went through the highlights tonight. There's a lot of customization changes they did in quirky little things. And I don't use a lot of that stuff. Even on the D500, I don't use a lot of those customization things. And some people would, you know. I'm just a plain shooter. So, anyways, okay. Well, good night, y'all, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, see you.